pleasant good morning from Royal Communications Incorporated. Welcome to King's Newsroom, 45 minutes of high-grade balance and credible news about Liberia and the rest of our one world. Today is Friday, August 8th, 2025, and I'm Cornelius Johnson presenting this morning. Story topping the headlines: thousands of concerned Liberians against drug abuse petition national legislature to amend current drug law from 20 years to life imprisonment for traffickers as Bapolu Senator Boto Kanan and Mensah says the government has failed on its responsibilities. Supreme Court of Liberia cites former ruling party CDC and its headquarters landlord lawyers for legal conference over CDC claims of existing seal contract with the property administrators. U.S. Embassy Liberia applauds Liberian civil society organizations and community-based organizations for organizing national march against drugs abuse assets that Liberia has been dealing with a flow of illicit drugs in recent years. Away from Liberia, the Zambian government has dismissed claims of dangerous pollution in the Copper Belt mining region following safety concerns raised by the U.S. Embassy. And Tanzanians are mourning veteran politician and former Speaker of Parliament Job Nungai, who became the first to resign from the role after a public fallout with the president. The news bulletin voices of the newsmakers are all packaged in this edition of the program. We'll take a very short break to be right back. Many thanks for being there and welcome back. A citizens group known as Concerned Liberians Against Drug Abuse has petitioned the government of Liberia to amend the current drug laws. Citizens of all ages on Thursday took to the streets of Monroeville and its environs to call for a swift from a 20-year maximum sentence to life imprisonment for traffickers in the country. Reading the petition on Thursday at the Capitol building before the 55th legislature, the group, through an unknown spokesperson, urged lawmakers to take what they describe as decisive action to combat drug abuse threatening the country's future. According to the petitioners, drug and substance abuse is severely damaging the next generation and eroding the social fabric of communities across Liberia. The group emphasized that the current drug laws are too weak, allowing drug importers to operate with impunity while the country's future generation continue to die in every community across the country. The Concerned Liberians Against Drug Abuse further called on the government to strengthen all rehabilitation centers nationwide and to establish a special court dedicated to handling drug-related cases. Meanwhile, the group also urged members of the legislature to lead by example by reducing their salaries and benefits, redirecting those funds to national priorities like drug prevention and youth rehabilitation. The petitioners recommended that the executive branch declare August 7 of each year as a National Day Against Drug Abuse in recognition of the fight against the growing pandemic. In a related development, Bapolu County Senator Boto Kanan and Representative Muhammad Briggs of Bon County, who responded to the petition, admitted that the government has failed on its responsibility to protect children and communities from the growing threat of drug abuse. Speaking on behalf of the Senate Pro Tem following the submission of a petition by Concerned Liberians Against Drugs Abuse at the Capitol on Thursday, the chairperson on genders and members of the Women's Legislative Caucus called for an aggressive aggressive approach against traffickers in the country. During Thursday's gathering, petitioners demand decisive legislative reforms, including life imprisonment for drug traffickers and the creation of special drug court, expansion of rehabilitation services, and the declaration of August 7 as a National Day Against Drug Abuse. The two lawmakers pledged an immediate task force that will crack down traffickers in every community. At the same time, the chief executive officer of the Bogonjira Group of Companies has expressed serious disappointment with the lack of support from lawmakers to grace their say no to drug protests at the Capitol building. According to Elton Jones, illicit drugs abuse is affecting every family member across the country. As such, lawmakers from the 73 districts and 15 counties must demonstrate commitment to the fight against illicit drugs. John claims that representatives and senators were not in their numbers to receive the petition from parents, relatives, and friends who came out to protest against illicit drugs, which are destroying the youthful population of the nation. He used the protests, or he said the protests against say no to drugs demonstrated that all Liberians from all walks of life want illicit drugs to be eradicated. He pointed out that President Joseph Boakai should do everything possible to ensure that illicit drugs are battled at all fronts to save Liberian children from drug abuse. John made the statement Thursday as Liberians turned out in their thousands to protest against illicit drugs in Liberia under the theme "Say No to Drugs." The presiding justice in chambers at the Supreme Court has cited CDC and the late Martha Stubberfield property lawyers for a legal conference in connection to a petition filed by CDC legal team. Associate Justice Sienna Clinton Johnson, August 6, 2025, notice to the parties' lawyers is demanding them to appear before her on today, Friday, August 8 at 3 o'clock p.m. Justice Clinton Johnson's citation, according to our judicial correspondent, was triggered by CDC lawyers' request accusing civil law court assigned George Smith of dismissing their petition for specific performance without any legal basis. CDC's petition claimed an existing contract between them and the administrator of the late Martha Stubberfield property that allowed them to occupy their 4.23 acres of land hosting their party's headquarters in Concord Town, contrary to the property's owner's claim to the court. Our judicial correspondent said that Justice Clinton Johnson's August 8 gathering with the parties is to hear from lawyers representing the administrators of the properties in connection to CDC's application before making any decision on the matter consistent with Chapter 16, Section 16.22 of the Civil Procedure Law of Liberia. As thousands of Liberians on Thursday took to the streets in central Monrovia to march against the alarming rise in drug abuse and trafficking, the U.S. government, through its embassy near Monrovia, is applauding civil society groups and community organizations for mobilizing against what many now call a national crisis. Liberians took to the streets to petition the government of Liberia against what they describes as high increase in drug abuse by the youthful generation of the country. In a release from the U.S. government through its embassy near Monrovia, commended civil society groups and community organizations for raising their voices to draw attention to what is termed as critical issue and for taking a stand to safeguard Liberia's youth communities and future generation. The U.S. Embassy release noted Liberia has been dealing with a flow of illicit drugs, most notably Kush, Tramadol, and cocaine, which has over the years damaged the lives of the country's future generation. Relatives of Emmanuel Payne, an officer of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency who was allegedly killed through mock violence on Benson Street in the township of Caldwell, have threatened to retaliate against those they believe are responsible for the death of the officer. On Thursday, family members of the late LDA officer were seen on the Bourgeois Island parading with photo of the deceased officer as protest against what they termed government's inability to apprehend his alleged murderers. The relatives of the victim, including his brother and mother, have expressed readiness to attack anyone suspected of killing the LDA officer. They vowed not to bury the deceased LDA officer until the Liberian government ensured justice by apprehending and prosecuting his murderers. They expressed disappointment that the LDA is always in the habit of asking them about the latest information they, the family, have obtained rather than the DA agents or officers of the Liberia National Police conducting their own investigation. Several practicing lawyers as attorneys have begun filing their petition before the Supreme Court for admission to the Supreme Court's bar. The High Court Wednesday, according to our judicial correspondent, confirmed that it is receiving applications from several attorneys at law who have reached the 5 years legal requirement for admission as counselor at law consistent with Chapter 17, Section 17.6 of the Judicial Law of Liberia. The law states any attorney who have been actively engaged in the practice of law for 5 years may submit a petition to the Supreme Court showing his moral and professional qualifications for membership in the bar of the Supreme Court and praying admission as a counselor of that court. Our judicial correspondent said, though the actual number of the applicants remain unknown, but the deadline for the petitioner's application is August 31, 2025, which will be followed with the vetting of the petitioner's petition before sitting for the court's legal exam consistent with law. The Liberia Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church has temporarily shut down the SD Nangwe United Methodist Church due to what it called continuing disruptions to worship and defiance against church authority. The decision, announced through a statement signed by Bishop Samuel Kuya, followed two consecutive Sundays of unrest at the church, during which assigned pastors were reportedly rejected and Holy Communion services were disrupted by members resisting recent doctrinal reaffirmation. According to the statement, those actions stand in direct opposition to the teachings of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and values that the United Methodist Church holds sacred: peace, love, accountability, order, and mutual respect. The Liberia Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church also has ordered the sealing of the church premises and suspended all services and activities at the site, redirected all worship to nearby United Methodist churches. As a result, the Liberia Annual Conference has ordered the sealing of the church premises and suspended all services and activities at the site. Worship is being redirected to nearby United Methodist churches, while the district superintendent and senior pastors have been given the authority to appoint interim auxiliary leaders. Those identified as central to the disruption may face disciplinary actions on paragraphs 2702.1 and 2706 of the United Methodist Church Book of Discipline. The Liberian government has reportedly transferred 300,000 United States dollars to the Office for the Establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Court of Liberia for operations. According to the new narrative, the government's transfer 300,000 United States dollars of its previously announced 2 million United States dollars promised to the Office for the Establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Court on Thursday, July 31, 2025. For some time, the Office for the Establishment of War and Economic Crimes Court has been complaining of the lack of funds for operation and payment of salaries of the employees. New narrative reporter Anthony Stevens put the amount at 15% of President Joseph Boakar's promise, US $2 million for 2025 for its operations. The executive director of the National Rehabilitation for Drug and War-Affected Persons has commended President Joseph Boakar's recent action plan aimed at combating the increase in the sale of consumption of drugs in the country. President Boakar on Wednesday issued a special presidential directive announcing an aggressive multi-pronged national anti-drug action plan in response to the alarming surge. The president's national anti-drug action plan to be implemented immediately and in accordance with law includes seizure of properties linked to drug activities, performance mandate for LDA regional commanders with a 6-month results deadline, as well as nation whistleblower program with cash rewards and protection for informants. Speaking in an interview Thursday, retired Colonel Augustine Nangwe describes the president's recent statement as the right step in the right direction. Nangwe called on the Liberian populace to cooperate with the president's action plan in order to avoid the country turning to Haiti in the nearby future. The Ninam Farmers Incorporated in Bon County is seeking partnership with governmental and non-governmental organizations for mass production of locally produced rice in the county. According to the chief executive officer of the group, Makiapiwu, said Meninina Farmers has been working with the Ministry of Agriculture on the Start Peak project through a secure grind to do all palm and canna meal. He also challenged President Joseph Boakai to prioritize legal instruments that stands to benefit Liberians. People noted that failure to provide required financial and logistic support deliver the necessary support for the will boosting of agricultural sector that will remain difficult. And the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia has embarked on an awareness campaign across Bong Bapulu counties to ensure or encourage citizens to mitigate the spread of diseases and food insecurity and negative impact of climate change. Speaking to reporters on Thursday in Bong County EPA Bong Coordinator Victor Bayi called on residents to desist from cutting down forest trees and burning of dangerous substances, adding that they are major factors that are affecting the normality of the climate condition. Victor also acknowledged EPA partnerships with the Ministry of Agriculture and Action Aid as sponsors of for the mitigating processes. According to him, is intended to maintain the country on a good atmosphere. The news bulletin, we take a very short break. When we come back, we bring you more developments on the program. Indeed, if you just joining us, is a reminder you are in tune to King's Newsroom, 45 minutes of aggregate balance, incredible news about Liberia and the rest of our one world. One of our top stories this morning, Supreme Court of Liberia cites former ruling party CDC and its headquarters landlord lawyers for legal conference over CDC claims of existing seal contract with the property administrators. Let's now bring you voices of the newsmakers on the program. Today's development is citizens group known as Concerned Liberians Against Drug Abuse has petitioned the government of Liberia to apprehend the current drug laws. Citizens of all ages on Thursday took to the streets of Monrovia and its environs to call for a shift from a 20-year maximum sentence to life imprisonment for traffickers in the country. Reading the petition on Thursday at the Capitol building, the group, through an unnamed spokesperson, urged lawyers or lawmakers to take what it describes as decisive action to combat drug abuse threatening the country's future.
It's with heavy heart and trembling voices that we, concerned citizens and residents of the Republic of Liberia, bring this petition to you in this moment of national emergency. We the people of Liberia demand immediate and decisive action by our government to save our nation from this minute. To the legislative branch of government, we demand that you amend the current drug law through citizens' participation to impose a minimum 20 years to life imprisonment sentence for anyone found guilty of child of the first degree. The current law will start 10 to 20 years for first degree charge related felonies. These last sentences have failed and the law must be too deterrent. Make rehabilitation mandatory for apprehended drug user on bail or in prison. While the current drug law allows for drug user to have been apprehended in the act, bail without rehabilitation perpetuates the vicious cycle.
The group emphasized that the current drug laws are too weak, allowing drug importers to operate with impunity while the country's future generation continue to die in every community across the country. The Concerned Liberians Against Drug Abuse further called on the government to strengthen all rehabilitation centers nationwide and to establish a special court dedicated to handling drug-related cases. Meanwhile, the group also urged members of the legislature to lead by example by reducing their salaries and benefits, redirecting those funds to national priorities like drug prevention and youth rehabilitation.
It's with heavy heart and trembling voices that we, concerned citizens and residents of the Republic of Liberia, bring this petition to you in this moment of national emergency. Our ultimate goal is to engage the government putting in place several measures to fully viciously attack the menace of illicit drugs that has taken our nation. Through legislation, national investment, treatment, and education, our beloved Black Bureau is being from within. Communities are living in fear, despair, and hopelessness. Every day we witness the heartbreaking sights of our family and friends lying on the street corners like they're living there. Young people with bright futures, doctors, teachers, engineers, and leaders are being shot and left by a scourge of drugs. Across the nation, the same story echoes. Marijuana, heroin, kush, cocaine, amphetamine, tech stimulants, including tramadol, and intravenous drugs have invaded our land, destroying families and tearing apart the social fabric of our nation.
In a related development, Bapulu County Senator Boto Khan and Representative Muhammad Brice Mensah of Bon County, who responded to the petition, admitted that the government has failed on its responsibility to protect children and communities from the growing threat of drug abuse. Speaking on behalf of the Senate Pro Tem following the submission of the petition by concerned Liberians against drug abuse at the Capitol on Thursday, the chairperson on gender and member of the Women's Legislative Caucus called for an aggressive citizens traffickers. That's aggressive citizens approach against traffickers in the country.
On behalf of the protest and chair on gender, we know we are responsible for the welfare of our children. But we want to say sorry to you people because we have failed you, the government has failed, the partners have failed. We are going to start a new beginning and we are going to make sure that everything that should be done will be done by the grace of God. Thank you. Yes. The legislature has seen that they will look ahead. But as gender committee and women legislative caucus both the house, so that's why I want task force to start working tomorrow. So then we have tomorrow with easy. What we do say? We take it you for you. When you look for we come for you.
We'll meet you tomorrow to start to discuss the different recommendations.
We will start tomorrow. We will check
Mama business.
we will save our youth.
Mama Breeze Mensah of Bon County. Earlier, you listened to Senator Boto Khan of Bapulu County. They're speaking at the grounds of the capital on yesterday. At the same time, the chief executive officer of the Bogongida Group of Companies has expressed serious disappointment with the lack of support from lawmakers to grace the Say No to Drug protest at the Capitol building. According to Elton Jones, illicit drugs abuse is affecting every family member across the country as such lawmakers from the 73 districts and 15 counties must demonstrate commitment to the fight against illicit drugs. Jones claims that representatives and senators were not in their numbers to receive the petition from parents, relatives, and friends who came out to protest against illicit drugs which are destroying the youthful population of the country.
Government have their own part to play, and we as parents, guardians, and as sponsor of many of our children here, we also have our role to play too in society. Because the drugs that are being brought into our country today, some of our friends, some of our relatives, and the community that we live in, they also sell drugs. And we know some of the guys who are bringing the drugs in this country. And the drugs are slipped into schools rather than slip in the hands of our children. And our children are being greatly affected as a result of the dirty pandemic called drugs. It's the one that is eating our society. If you look today, we have a very youthful population. And to see that the drugs is damaging the life of our children today, nobody's in a case to school to go and come in contact with drugs. So all of us, that is why you saw barrage of people. And we as business executives, we also have to close our door. We're concerned about our business too, but then we cannot keep doing business here at the end of the day while our children are there languishing and under the influence of drugs. And that is why we joined the call to say, hey, government, President Bwaka, you came as a result of rescuing in this country, Liberia. But then we see the high wave of drugs that just moving here and there, porous border, and the LDA, lack of support. They are not playing the part too. So that's why we call on the support of central government to take prompt actions. Well, Mr. Brooks, I think you look around you, this is the most organized, peaceful protest that have ever been staged. And avoid politics. You saw different schools of individuals. But one thing that's saddening all of us here is that the state actors, right, individuals who we do expect that they should be able to turn just to show love and avoid politics. The president, the two senators of Moswado County, they wasn't seen at all at the event, and even the 73 lawmakers. So I think it's not a good thing for them because we need to tackle the drugs from the various districts, the various communities. But you being a seated lawmaker, you have your own role to play because you have the oversight responsibility in representing your people. The oversight responsibility to make sure that the people's well-being has been taken care of. So some of the inflow of drugs today that move in the various districts, so you should be able to take in your people. But when it comes to political rally, everybody want to show their own political strength. Then the troop out there. So that's why parents themselves have to take the mantle of authority and to move. Or you saw there were small children that we saw the barrage of honor kids children. Oh, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed completely. I'm disappointed. I'm heartbroken by.
He's the chief executive officer of the Bogongida Group of Companies. There's expressing serious disappointment with a lack of support from lawmakers to create the Say No to Drugs protest at the Capitol building. He's Elton Jones. Relatives of Emmanuel Payne, an officer of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency who was allegedly killed through mob violence on Benson Street in the township of Caldwell, have threatened to retaliate against those they believe are responsible for the death of the officer. On Thursday, family members of the LDA officer who were seen on Bushwell Island parading with photo of the deceased officer as protest against what they term government's inability to apprehend his alleged murderers. The relatives of the victim, including his brother and mother, have expressed readiness to attack anyone suspected of killing the LDA officer.
For a peaceful march, meaning that the government measures were just, put stop the just, and he went to do the function of the government. Now the government says no consent, no ask, more respect the CA. Not talking nothing of it. They're expecting us, the free family or the patent, to carry information to them. So we're not here to ask the government, we're not here to debate with the government. We have one justice, and there must be on justice for the native environment. Also, no consent. Since July 22nd at 4 to 5 o'clock p.m. the incident occurred. Since then, we have nothing from the government and we hearing nothing from the TA sector. I say the point and then they were on duty, not off duty at the incident occurred. Work for him, for the government to manifest the power as hard as they should do. Unfortunately, we were killed. We see no impact, we see no momentum for them, we see nothing for them, no cause, no complete, no information. We can go there to get our information, then they'll be asking us what going on. So that's the question there. So I didn't want to send messages for them. But they want to think to intimidate us, and we're not employing no one. If we take it, to come and look out on the other side. As we a family, we don't want for that girl to go backwards. But our family can open a family dispute and get rid of a whole of people. Only they put force or they put and step, they talk into it. We'll get to their family too and do it before they get hurt. They will take it for them too. Maybe that's how they did the money. So when he was killed, going there for a peaceful march and get it from the government the second chance. So when that come into it, they will do anything that we should do. So who also die? I'll be waiting to die today or tomorrow for my sin. It will happen.
My son was killed by the DA. And my son said that my son said that I'm not telling my son that we are trying to sell my son now. More than 3 years, we went there. He said, for where they pay, he was running, and today, because I case about that moment, so we were able to call him back. Inside, working up on the promoter, you know, I'm going to pay him for, or to be able to kill my son, and they did not want to bury my son. My son was over there, the one who said they can't talk to me. Said they can't water me out there. I said the one with the I would kill my son. Then the one for me to go bury my son. Up to the way down, I did my dad. So if they get a mouth for my son, today to go anywhere I want to
Relatives of Emmanuel Payne, an officer of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency was allegedly killed through mob violence on Benson Street in the township of Caldwell. Relatives there threatening to retaliate against those they believe are responsible for the death of the officer. Indeed, if you're just joining us, it's a reminder you are in tune to King's News Broom, 45 minutes of accurate, balanced, incredible news about Liberia and the rest of our one world. Today is Friday, August 8, 2025. Story topping the headlines this morning: thousands of Liberians concerned against drug abuse petition national legislature to amend current drug law from 20 years to life imprisonment for traffickers as Babalu Senator Boto Kanan and Menza says the government has failed on its responsibilities. Supreme Court of Liberia cites from ruling party CDC and its headquarters landlord lawyers for legal conference over CDC's claims of existing seal contract with the property administrator. U.S. Embassy Liberia applauds Liberian civil society organizations and community-based organizations for organizing national march against drugs abuse are said that Liberia has been dealing with a flood of illicit drugs in several years. Away from Liberia, the Zambia government has dismissed claim of dangerous pollution in the Copper Belt mining region following safety concerns raised by the U.S. Embassy. And Tanzania's Amunin veteran politician and former Speaker of Parliament Job Nunga will begin the first to resign from the role after a public fallout with the president. We take another break. When we come back, we'll bring you more developments on the program. Thanks for being there and welcome back. The the executive director of the National Rehabilitation for Drug and War-Affected Persons has commended President Joseph Boakal's recent action plan aimed at combating the increase in the sale of consumption of drugs in the country. President Boakal on Wednesday issued a special presidential directive announcing an aggressive multi-pronged national anti-drug action plan in response to a alarming surge. The President National Anti-Drug Action Plan to be implemented immediately in accordance with law includes seizures of properties linked to drug activities, performance mandate for LDA regional commanders with a 6-month results deadline, as well as nation whistleblower program with cash rewards and protection for informants. Speaking in an interview Thursday, retired Colonel Augustine Namwe describes the president's recent statement as the right step in the right direction.
First, I want to extend my thanks and appreciation to the president and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Liberia. As a veteran, we say bravo to the president of the Republic of Liberia for what he just stated on the drugs issue. Drugs cartel will not get no seat in this country. They should continue to be running around until we kick drugs out of Liberia. Drugs is not good, and we say no to drugs. According to Liberians, to always say no to drugs and tell the president thank you. What we need is one president already dead. The executive order the president gave is enough. We want to go after drugs people. It is enough. The president gave order to move, to destroy all drugs cartel and bring them to book and bring them under the law. The law must be their way, and they must also be their way. Let the law take a course. For what the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Liberia said, we said bravo to him, and we said thanks. And to all listening audience, we are calling on you people today to say thank you to the president of the Republic of Liberia for that order he gave. That is what we've been looking for. Because our children in the graveyard, they are different kind of places, ghetto and other places dying. And nobody cares for them. But I extend my thanks and appreciation again to the commander-in-chief of the Republic of Liberia. I am calling on the president, all ministers, directors, civil society, across the country should be tested of drugs. We want drug tests to be across the country. We started with the minister first. The president already did drug tests. My partner will be coming in the country in collaboration with me. We will be carrying on the drug testing situation. So I want to say thanks to the president and thanks to the Liberian people for highly cooperative.
The Liberian government has reportedly transferred $300,000 to the office of the for the establishment of the War Economic Crimes Court in Liberia for operations. According to the new narrative, the government transferred $300,000 out of its previously announced $2 million to the Office for the Establishment of War and Economic Crimes Court on Thursday, July 31, 2025. For some time, the Office for the Establishment of War and Economic Crimes Court has been complaining of the lack of fund for operation and payment of salaries for the employees. New narrative reporter Anthony Stevens put the amount at 15% of President Joseph Boakai promised US $2 million for 2025 for its operations.
Have you heard about President Boakai's partial financial fulfillment of 300,000 of his $2 million pledged to Liberia's War Crimes Court Office for its operations? The executive director of the office, Jada Babu, made the disclosure on Thursday during a meeting with local and international stakeholders working on Liberia's transitional justice process. The funds constitute 15% of the $2 million the president promised the office when he renewed its mandate in April. The office should be receiving 500,000 quarterly in line with the president's directive, but now it should have been paid $1 million. The partial funding comes months after Babu said they had exhausted the 368,000 they had received from the government in January. Babu said they had not been paid for 7 months. In an interview with us after the meeting, he said that they were glad that the money has finally come.
This gives us some relief, at least in terms of the staff salary and the basic operations and logistical needs, while we also move forward. So we're taking our time to calculate right now in terms of how much can we pay from this fund, how much more will remain for us to send to operations. As a responsible institution, we still have to keep the office's doors open. We have to engage the public. So we will definitely use some of the money for that purpose.
The partial funding comes at a time Boakai has been implementing a range of recommendations of the 2009 Truth and Reconciliation Commission report, including an official apology to victims, a commitment to honor a national memorial, and a public holiday for victims of the wars. The move has attracted praise from transitional justice experts. Babu has also disclosed that he is set to make an all-important trip this month to meet with the president of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, in Abuja, Nigeria. If Liberia is to establish a court to try so-called international crimes, it will need the regional body to be an official partner. For more on this story, go to frontpageafricaonline.com.
Many thanks to new narrative reporter Anthony Stevens. The Mininina Farmers Incorporated in Bon County is seeking partnership with governmental and non-governmental organizations for mass production for locally produced rice in the county. According to the chief executive officer of the group, Mark Apiru, said the group has been working with the Ministry of Agriculture on the Star Peak project through a secure grant to do oil palm and canna oil. That's canna mill. He also challenged President Joseph Boakai to prioritize legal instruments that stands to benefit every Liberian.
What we're doing across the district is that we aggregate. We are knowing as well. So we are trying to get at that level. But again, we'll need the support of government, we need the support of NGO, we need the support of other organizations, other partners. In the next 2 to 3 years, we hope to see a cooperative that will be viable, viable and sustainable. As we have already seen the test of time, so we are going to be at a level in which we will be referenced nationally and internationally.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully we're getting it. Yeah, I mean, several times we have been working with the Ministry of Agriculture, on several projects. Like the Stapi is one of the projects which really which is making a lot of impact in our life, you know, because with Stapi we secure a grant from them to do oil palm mill and canna mill.
The Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia has embarked on an awareness campaign across Bong Bapolu counties to encourage citizens to mitigate the spread of diseases and food insecurity and negative impact of climate change. Speaking to reporters on Thursday in Bong County, EPA Bong Coordinator Victor Bayi called on residents to desist from cutting down forest trees and burning of dangerous substances, adding that they are major factors that are affecting the normality of the climate condition.
Is that climate change is not just government's responsibility. Combating climate change must be everyone's business. Every citizen must take this as a challenge and say, look, as a citizen, I have a role to play in combating climate change or the effect of climate change. Uh, Climate change does not affect one person or does not look at who is the cause of the climate change. By that I'm saying, let's take for example, if my actions are actions that lead to climate change, the effect of climate change does not necessarily come back right to me as Victor Guli. Rather, it comes back to the country or the entire world. This climate change issue is a very sensitive thing. I'm sure that if we can even reach various schools, establish climate clubs, reach various communities, establish climate clubs, go to villages. I'm grateful to the EPA that the EPA has now started to think about the county's environmental committees. And currently we are probably in Bapolu and Bon County. We started having consultative meetings with county level leaders, commissioner, plan chiefs, see how best we can establish this county level environmental committee. And after that establishment, we are hopeful that we'll have a district level committee and then we'll have a client level committee. Because when that is done, everyone will take charge of the environment. Everyone will see himself as a leader or as a champion in combat.
He's Bon County coordinator of the Environmental Protection Agency, Victor Weyi. They're speaking. Away from home now, Zambian government has dismissed claims of dangerous pollution in the Copper Belt mining region following safety concerns raised by the U.S. Embassy. On Wednesday, the U.S. Embassy issued a health alert ordering the immediate withdrawal of its personnel in Kuwait town and nearby areas due to concerns of widespread contamination of water and soil linked to a February spill at the Senomatus mine. The spill happened when a tailings dam used to store toxic waste and heavy metals collapsed into the Kafu River, a key drinking water source following heavy rain. The U.S. Embassy said there was new information that showed the extent of hazardous and dangerous substances in the river. And Tanzania's Amonian veteran politician and former Speaker of the Parliament, Job Nunga, would become the first to resign from the role after a public fallout with the president. Nunga, who served as an MP for the past 25 years, died in Dodoma, Tanzania's capital, on Wednesday at the age of 62, Speaker Tulia Ackson announced. The cause of death was not given, although local media reported he had been ongoing treatment at a hospital in the city. In a statement, President Samuel Hassan said she has received with sorrow the news of Nunga's death and has sent condolences to his families and friends. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of King's Newsroom. But just before we go, here are stories we closely follow. Thousands of Liberians concerned Liberians against drug abuse petition national legislature to amend current drug law from 20 years to life imprisonment for traffickers. As Bapalo County Senator Boto Kanan and Bong County Representative said, the government has failed on its responsibility. Supreme Court of Liberia sat former ruling party CDC and its headquarters landlord lawyers for legal conference over CDC claims of existing seal contract with the property administrator. U.S. Embassy Liberia applauds Liberian civil society organizations and community-based organizations for organizing national march against drug abuse, asserts that Liberia has been dealing with a flow of illicit drugs in several years. Away from Liberia, the Zambian government has dismissed claims of dangerous pollution in the Copper Belt mining region following safety concerns raised by the U.S. Embassy. Tanzanians are mourning veteran politician and former Speaker of Parliament Job Nunga will begin the first to resign from the role after a public fallout with the president. Many thanks to all of our contributors, editors, and reporters who helped in making this edition of King's News from our sources. Many thanks to our news director for packaging this edition of the program. On behalf of the entire team, my name is Cornelius Johnson. Many thanks for listening and watching. Good morning.